I'd like to call this meeting. Hi, hello, everybody. Hello, everybody, including people I haven't seen in a while. This meeting is called to order officially at 7 o'clock. March 8th, International Women's Day. Let's make a note of the fact that we acknowledged International Women's Day. And the roll call is I say your name and you say here. And I'm just going to follow the order on my screen. Sabrina Hosmer.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you all here.
Hi, thank you. Felicia Familaro. Amy Nocton is here and busy. Esme Alapena. Margaret Cheney. Katie Bell.
Hello.
Derek Cameron. Nice to see you, Derek. Quincy,
Yep,
I forget your last name. Quincy is here. Monica's here. Janine Canadia. Is that how you say it? Canadia. Renee Mercado.
Here.
Thank you. Jane Freed and Raymond Fricano. Correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, the meeting is now being called to order. Hi, Amy. The first thing we have to do is approve the minutes of the previous two meetings. I went over them before this meeting and I did not see anything out of order, but has anybody else seen anything out of order? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the meeting of the minutes of the January and February meetings, please? Some official member.
I'll move.
Esme moves adoption or approval of the two previous months' meetings. Can I have
second?
Who
I
is that? Okay, Quincy.
Okay.
Sorry.
And,
We can rock, paper, scissors it.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. The minutes are approved. Okay, the first thing on our agenda, individuals have been doing a great deal, so I wanted to start with member reports, but even before I start, I want to acknowledge that we have two guests and to welcome our guests, one of whom seems to have disappeared from my screen at the moment. Oh, there she is, Renee. Renee was at the meeting last time, and we have Ray Fricano here the second time. And hi, Ray, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about why you decided to show up tonight?
Well, I've lived in the town for 42 years, worked for the government as administrative judge for 38 years. Just recently, I completed the Mansfield Academy, which is the town as Margaret Sheeran. And during the sessions with the Mansfield Academy, we were encouraged as students to consider some committees to participate in. And this one resonated with my past experience. And here I am.
Thank you very much. Okay, and Renee, you were here last week. Would you like to say a little bit about yourself just briefly?
Yeah, I also did the Government Academy. And as Ray had said, we are encouraged to join some committees. And this is one that has resonated with me. It's very close to my heart. It's something that I've always wanted to have, a not-for-profit where I could work out in the community with with people to really help them have a voice. And it isn't something I've been able to bring to fruition, but being on committees like this will help me to really understand what it is that the community needs.
Wonderful. Yeah, we're still trying to understand that ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, member reports. You want me to go first or last? I have tons of stuff, but I think I'd like to hear from everybody else first. Janine, what have you been doing lately? You're always doing something.
As you know, it's Women's History Month. So with the morning announcements, I'm pulling up for MES, the Mansfield Elementary School, each day spotlighting a woman in history. And everyone knows about Rosa Parks and Clara Barton and all of that. So I'm finding all those interesting ones, like the ENIAC women, the 6 women who programmed that massive computer that the men had built. So Shirley Chisholm. Those I'm trying to spotlight. Still working on that. And it's also Happy Holi for those of you who know about the Hindu festival. So we did that today as well. I made sure that was in morning announcements. And there are a couple of students who
Throw
are
around
Hindu.
very bright colored things, powder.
Yes, you either wear white or bright colored clothing and you spray water and then you throw powder paint or, the powdered stuff all over you. And I think UConn has done that in the past where they have it on the quad or something and they encourage that.
Yeah.
Some teachers will use confetti and they'll throw confetti, let the kids throw confetti. There were a couple of students who did have the dot on their forehead, and that
That's
to
called a
me is,
bindi.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I should know that, right, with the family. And it was like melting my heart. I'm like, thank you, that is awesome, be proud of it. I also went to the DEI meeting last week.
Tell everybody.
Okay. I took down a lot of notes, so I will try to.
Yeah, I want you to summarize, 'cause we got to move through everybody, but give
Right.
us the stuff.
Let's see. They are. Peter he's telling staff first. He hasn't gone out and told a whole bunch of people yet, but there is going to be a calendar that will have, your basic, your traditional days off, but it's also going to be interactive on the website, where off to the side, possibly there will be other holidays, observances, and it will also be encouraged that, if you follow one of these, please, by all means, if that is time that you need to take off, then take off. They're also encouraging teachers not to schedule tests or field trips or what have you during special times. I had to chuckle because I had seen something with E.O. Smith that I think it's the PSAT, if I'm not mistaken, it starts March 22nd. I'm like, why are they doing that? Because that's the beginning of Ramadan. But those are some of the things that they are going to be trying to do with the new calendar. The Board of Ed still has to, finalize and approve a lot of the different things, but there has been a lot of talk about it, and I really think that that's going to go through. And if I'm not mistaken, Peter had asked them, why are our calendars Christian based? Why do these events, where are the other observances? There was the question of your traditional weeks off for Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter. But he said, can you tell me why we only have Christian based calendar? So he presented that to the Board of Ed. I'm like, my mouth kind of dropped with that one. So I was kind of, pleased with that.
I've seen this
be-
calendar. He sent me a copy of this calendar, and it looks like a regular calendar, except on the alternate observances, there are pictures. And you click on the pictures, and that will be a link to explain what the observance was. So there's some very beautiful pictures for each month. It's really a wonderful way to set everything up so people can learn.
Right, and that was the other committee that within the DEI, they had these other little subcommittees, and that was one of the ones that we were on. And we spent a lot of time talking about it. Some who are teachers and some who are parents and workers. We talked about our concerns and what we're seeing and what we would like to have included, making sure that we stay within that 180 plus days, for the school year. So it was interesting. And then we talked about making sure about equity for students in regards to making sure the kids and families are getting what they need. Like if there's a concern with students, not only do you just talk to the students and you send a letter out to the students, but is it meeting the requirements for the parents? You know, do the parents speak a second language? Do they do? So with the middle school and the elementary school, they're trying to make sure more and more that communication is open and that there are links available, communicators, even the nurse, I think, has like a device where you can speak and it will help translate for you. So it looks like they are trying to make sure things are more equitable. You know, it's a process.
Yeah, it is a process, but that's wonderful. Thank you. They scheduled that meeting on a night when I had another meeting, so I couldn't go, but Janine went, and thank you for telling us what you found out. Okay, anybody else? What have you been doing? Not a whole lot of stuff at the moment. Okay, well, if Quincy, you want to say something, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. I'm really sorry. It kept on going to like add a filter or add a background. Sorry. I have been working, so I work with the NAACP Legal Redress Committee, and I've been doing some things on that front, which I think tie directly into the work that we do here. So we've been working with some of the local schools, specifically like the Charles Barrow School, STEM school, on some some education, on some diversity education, DEI like education. We've also been working on, I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, the noose that was found at the school. So we've been working on that case as well.
I
But
have a question for you. Was there a noose found at the middle school or the high school, or is this the one that happened in Hebron?
at Ram High
Ram.
School.
Yeah,
Ram.
there's a lot of stuff going on about that. Good.
Yep. So there's been like some press conferences that we, that we've done and put out. And so that's been kind of like putting that on the main front. However, we're also starting in the beginning works, like a youth NAACP council group, which I think is sorely needed in this area. And, to bring youth into this group and to bring youth into other groups that are, diversifying the area. But Valentine's Day was a celebration for talking about Black history and, and like kind of turning it into a day to celebrate the, Black love and Black history and all those stories that people share there. So I was involved in that. But otherwise, I think that's pretty much it for this past month.
I think that's pretty good for 1 month and a new baby. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anybody else been doing anything that you would like to share? Amy, will you talk about the D&D program?
Can I?
Yeah, Felicia, go for it.
Felicia, go first. Okay.
March 23rd, we are hosting a speaker event about reproductive rights. We're hosting Barbara Gurr, who is an expert in Native American and Indigenous women, and Phoebe Plouffe, who is a teacher, a professor at UConn in the Women and Gender Studies department, who's has a legal perspective on reproductive rights. So that will be on March 23rd, and we're very excited for that.
Okay, Felicia,
Online.
can you tell about the previous program just briefly?
Oh, yeah. So Deliberation and Discourse, we're a group of students who want to make a difference in the school community and the greater community. And we host different types of events that promote community engagement. So we like to host public forums, speaker series on topics that we care about. We also like to, we have a participatory budgeting program at our school where we have a grant, and we ask the community what they want to use the money for. We also do a lot of podcasting, a variety of different things. But the students basically just decide what they're interested in exploring that year, and we try to make things happen.
Okay, and I've just had a note from one of the members of that group about an upcoming program they want to do on making Mansfield a more welcoming community, and they've got some ideas, and I gave them some more ideas. And I think I'll probably be meeting with them to help them organize their thinking, which was the hardest part. I had to organize my mind. The rest of it isn't so hard for me. I have a disorganized mind. What can I tell you? Okay, but anyway, they're trying to do some ideas about what do we literally do to help people feel welcome when they move here? Because we know how many people move in and out of this town every single year, and it's very disorienting if nobody's there to say, hi, here's how everything works. So we're going to see, they're going to try to get some conversation going about that, which I think is very good. Okay, let me tell you what I have been up to.
I think Katie had something to say.
Oh, who does? Katie, go ahead.
I'm quick. So just an update. Thank you, Amy, for getting the vote to your GSA crew for the film. I wasn't able to get rights to the first choice, but I am in the process of locking down Bohemian Rhapsody for our second annual Celebrate Pride event. So get your best Freddie Mercury mustaches ready for June. It's going to be rock and roll.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, here I go. I'm on a roll. The first thing I want to remind you of is there is a Debbie Irving event this Saturday in Hebron. It costs $10, but if you don't have $10, I'm sure they will let you in anyhow. Bring your own lunch. They're serving lunch. I'm just being facetious. I'm sure they'll feed you too. Debbie Irving is an excellent speaker, and her whole theme is that white people ought to know what it means to be white. It's not about all the other people. It's also about the white people. She's just really, really good. So there's a morning session, an afternoon session, and then a follow-up at the very end. If you are interested, I just sent the connection with the link around to everybody right before this meeting. I hope somebody will show up because I'd really like you all to meet Debbie. And I'd love to have her back involved with Mansfield, but we may get involved in this larger code group, which is out of Hebron, but is trying to set up a coalition that includes anti-racism and anti-oppression of everybody. And we may get further by collaborating with them. So anyway, I'm going to that, and I hope somebody else or two will try to go. I attended a meeting they're doing an assessment for the future of parks and recreation in the town of Mansfield. And they had meetings for the leadership of committees, and then they had open meetings for the public. It was very, very interesting. They were talking about access to the community center, what kinds of events happen there. What do we do about people who want to participate and it's too expensive? And we talked about access for seniors, which was another thing. What kinds of activities do we do for seniors? Who does the senior activities? Is it the community center? We talked a lot about the hiking trails in town. And making them safe, good signage, just a lot of different things. And so it's a long-term plan to make the town of Mansfield more accessible to everybody who lives here, and for people for whom that is intimidating, to make it less so. So then they've hired a really good firm, and it was an interesting conversation. So I went to that meeting. I also presented finally the Human Rights Commission to the town council, and I put together like a little PowerPoint, and I gave them all copies of that little booklet that the UN puts out about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They were not only interested, I had the distinct impression that it was all big news to them. They had not heard about a lot of the kinds of things that we think are important with regard to human rights. And I think the more we stick to what is written in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the more consistent a theme we will have to communicate to the community. And it's things like everybody has a right to be safe. Everybody has a right to their own religion. Everybody has a right not to be harassed. Everybody has a right to work without any interruptions or interference. And there's, a whole bunch, a place to live, good health care, it's all in there. So when I said to the town council, this is what you signed on to when you did this proclamation, and they seemed to be well informed when I got finished. But the question at the end of it was, what are we doing about hiring policies? And I thought, oh, that's the tricky one. And I will be meeting with Ryan and Mayor Moran next week to start talking about what we will be doing about hiring policies. They are hiring a firm to do some kind of an assessment, and I don't know what else they're going to do, but I will be better informed as time goes on. And I made it very clear that I thought we ought to be involved in the conversation. So I'm really excited about that because our hiring policies need to be examined, and they haven't been for quite some time. I am also, having made up that presentation, I decided I ought to take it around town. So I am going to present the what is the Human Rights Commission program at the Senior Center and at the library, I hope. And I've spoken to Vicki, well, no, that's down at the other end. So anyway, I've been out talking to people, listening to people, and informing people that we're here and what we're about. And I think when I can say to them, this is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. These are the things we are concerned about. Are we meeting your needs? Is there something else you want to bring up to us? I'm getting very positive responses from people, so I'm really pleased. And I'm going to continue to do that. Anytime, and I explained to the town council that I was doing all this because basically everybody else is working or in school all day long and can't attend these 1 o'clock in the afternoon meetings. But if at any point anybody wants to go to one of these meetings with me, I will be more than happy to welcome you and include you. And I'll let you know what's coming up. So that's my report. Amy.
Thank you, Jane. And I know you mentioned our upcoming events about the town. While you're doing this, if you think to, one of the things that we want to be looking at, of course, in terms of welcoming towns is, the diversity needs, et cetera, right? For all different people. So that would be another great night to start for people to come and voice their things that make them excited about Mansfield and the things that they're concerned about. We've of course put feelers out to you, and Peter Dart sent us already a list of things that he'd like to see discussed that evening. Yeah, it's excellent. So if people can chime in and let us know, and the kids are doing a great job keeping track, and Derek put that it's very much in the planning stages, which it is, but the more that we know people will show up and talk about, the better that will be then too. So thank you.
Yeah, the one thing when I got the proposal, what's the name of the young lady who sent me that thing? Can you help me with that? I don't remember. Mackenzie?
I think it was Mackenzie.
Yeah, Mackenzie.
Mackenzie is one of our new younger members.
Yeah, she said she sent all these services that we provide to people, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't quite get my mind around what they were trying to do. And then all of a sudden I said, Mackenzie, it's not about services, it's about processes. And I went back to the 1970s in the welcome wagon. I don't know if any of you ever had a welcome wagon visit. I said something like, of course we need to provide all these services and language differences and not harassing anybody and all that stuff. But when people move into town, somebody needs to go there and say, hi, we're happy to have you. And maybe we can think of a way to set that kind of a process up. It was very sophisticated in the 70s. And I didn't say it, but it was all women, of course. And they had a little welcome wagon, and they drove around and they said, hello, and here's a list of all the town services. And here's some ice cream they made in the local dairy. I was in New England. And, and here's some other things that you might want to do. And I think it's just a goodie bag of nice to meet you. Here's how to get in touch with me. Let me know if I can help you. And it is a tremendously inclusive process because anybody who moves in gets that. So that was one thing I suggested to them. And we'll see if we can manage that. There are, Senior Center has people who drive people to appointments. So maybe we can pull them in to help drive to welcome people as well. But anyway, I'm very excited about that. I was glad they picked that subject. Any other comments from members? Okay, we're going to move to the next thing on the agenda, which is old business, and don't feel pressured, but is there any information from affordable housing? How are we moving along with that, Esme? Have you heard from anybody?
I have not. I was the woman in charge of it. I keep blanking on her name, but she has invited us to the meeting, but she also said that because it was a schedule conflict, and I think you went to the last one, is that right, Jane?
I went to one of them, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But the agendas are always on their thing, and they have the updated minutes. So
okay, well, this is going to be a long, slow process. So just every month, make sure you get in touch with her and find out what's going on and be able to tell us, and that'll be fine. Okay, new business, Katie, Pride Month and proclamation.
So I just wanted to make sure that we gave ourselves enough lead time to get on town council's agenda. To make sure, and I'm, even as I'm looking at this now, recognizing that we also need to do this for Juneteenth, and kind of making sure that they have those proclamations. I think typically we shoot for one of the May meetings, but we try to kind of make it so it's not overwhelming during the budget process, for them to give their seal of approval to those proposed proclamations. In the past couple of years, I believe Glenn had been the one to present both of those in his role as chair. So kind of looking at how we want to present them and move forward with that request this year to town council to approve those proclamations for the month of June.
So Katie, are you going to revise the previously used proclamation and present it to us? What's the process?
That's the question that I have on the agenda of how do we want to do it? So if
How did we do it last year?
huh?
How did we do it last year?
Last year, I think I did a couple of minor revisions and sent them to Glenn. I think we, as the group, kind of had a quick once over, and then Glenn took once we approved it as the group to town council. And I think that is a similar process to what Glenn had done, where I believe he had written the proclamation on Juneteenth, but it could have been someone else who had done that. Monica's nodding yes, that Glenn had written that proclamation. So I'm happy to do any revisions to the Pride proclamation, but kind of making sure that we're all kind of on the ball to have our June stuff ready. One of the things that I might put into the revision of the proclamation this year, in the acronym of LGBTQIA+ that we use throughout, I'm going to very intentionally add 2S, which stands for Two-Spirited. There is a local push from our Native American peoples who are involved in a lot of the other regional work that we do through the local prevention councils, and things like that, that they would like specifically to be included in that acronym. So I'm going to update that acronym for this year for sure, and see if there's any other updates that are worth bringing in.
Okay, well, in terms of time schedule, if you could revise that, get last year's updated appropriately, get it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we'll mail it around to people in advance so that they can take a look at it. And then I think if we can approve it at the next meeting, you'll still have plenty of time to get it to the town council. How's that sound? We're talking about April.
I can have it ready for our April meeting, and then it'll just be the question of whom would be the one to go before town council. I know I had done it in 2020 just because this group did not exist, so I had kind of been the lead on that project, but I think Glenn's presented it the last couple of years, just in his role as chair. So I'm happy to make sure I got my eyes on it for any corrections, and then hand it off to whomever makes the most sense to present.
Well, if it's the chair's role, I'll do it. That's fine. So we'll look for that on the agenda for next month. Great. Okay, is that all, or is there more for the Pride celebration?
That is my big, let's get it on the agenda for town council. And then Margaret, since you're here, I don't know if the admin team has started looking at if they want to do any Pride raising flag celebrations. They had been the ones who had coordinated that in the past. I'm going to be emailing the Connecticut Voice magazine, which is the Connecticut LGBTQIA+ publication. Their due date for the Pride issue is the 15th, so I'm going to be emailing them at least general details about the Celebrate Pride Festival, but if we have anything that is actively kind of in the works for a flag raising, I can get it to them before that deadline.
I have a question. I forget what the name of the magazine is, that little thing that comes out every month and highlights a family on the front cover. What's the name?
Mansfield Connections.
Mansfield Connection. Is there any way we can get something about Pride in there? Or are they too far ahead in their publication deadlines? Margaret, do you know?
No, I think that I think at this point we could request. I'll be honest, I've been having a hard time chasing reporters, they seem to change who their contact people are. And the last thing that I sent, it bounced back. So I'll just have to do a little bit of digging to find out who is now the best contact for sending information to them.
Yeah, because I mean, I continue to have a concern about them because they seem to be very good at white heterosexual families with 2 children. And once they had some people of color on the front page, but that is the only time. And I would like to see a little more diversity. If they're going to call it the Mansfield Connection, let's make it a little more accurate. So if you could find out who to talk to, that would be wonderful. Amy, do you have any?
Yeah, Jane, I agree. I reached out to them a couple of times in the past for that same reason. And one of the things they said to me, which I don't know whether or not I believe, is that it was just hard to find families who wanted to be on the cover of that magazine. So,
Yeah,
but I find it equally disconcerting is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's better than what they told me, which is we don't want to offend anybody. That was what I got when I asked. Quincy, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I can definitely add to that. So I have a contact, if you'd like it, Margaret, for the Mansfield Connections magazine. It's extremely unaffordable for a person in Mansfield to advertise in that magazine at all. I can send you over like a little price sheet, but I'm a realtor. So I actually reached out to them to advertise in the magazine. And I have also noticed that I actually do a game with my husband where I flip through all the pages and I say, do you think you can find any person of color in the whole magazine? And typically the answer is no. One time we found one family in the back and one time there's a family on the cover. But yes, I also agree with you. It's very, very whitewashed, for lack of a better word. And it's also very expensive. So I don't know if it's going to be in the budget.
We wouldn't be buying advertising. What we're trying to do is influence their editorial.
Right.
So they write feature stories,
Yeah.
right, about their cover story and maybe a few inside. And that's, free editorial, not paid advertising. So I think it's just suggesting to them, right, that this might be a good, that maybe they should be looking for, couples.
They do nothing, just so you know, nothing in that magazine is free. So the editorial stories written about the families in the front, those people pay money to be in that magazine. They pay money to have those things written about them. So it costs, and it does cost a lot of money, because I wanted the story written about my family. I had the same conversation, and it's expensive. You also have to have you have to buy, like, I think it's 2 or 3 months of smaller advertisements in there as well, and then you can have a cover story. So I can send you over the information exactly as he sent over it. I'd love to, but it's expensive.
They featured the fire department and our new fire chief, and they also featured Kim King, the Connecticut Teacher of the Year, who teaches in Mansfield. And that wasn't my understanding for either one of those stories. But yeah, please send me your contact, because Courtney, who I had been dealing with, I doesn't seem to be the contact anymore. So.
I will. I had a gentleman I was dealing with, so I'll send that over to you, Margaret. No problem.
Great. Thanks, Quincy.
Of course.
Thank you very much. And Margaret, I could also write a little thing about what is the Human Rights Commission, just, 1 paragraph. If they're willing to take that kind of stuff, I'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, it's an odd thing, because they're they're a different kind of publication, but by all means, I think that would be great. But it's up to them, right? So.
Right. Well, just see if you can find out. Okay. Anybody else?
Just in the month of June, do we want to assign somebody to revise the Juneteenth proclamation request for town council as well? So we just kind of keep them together in our timeline.
Very good idea. Thank you. Who would like to revise the Juneteenth proclamation, or at least review the Juneteenth proclamation? All right. You would do it, Quincy? Thank you. Okay, Quincy will do it. Make note of that, Monica, and make sure Quincy gets the Juneteenth proclamation. The other thing that I'm expecting to do this year is to reissue that poster that we did explaining Juneteenth, change the artwork, but keep the text. So Quincy, I don't know if you've ever seen that or not.
I saw it. Yeah, it was awesome.
You liked it? Yeah, that was mostly by one of my students who helped me do that. I was so delighted with her. So if we can keep the text and you think text is okay, then we'll change the pictures, but I would like to really distribute that this year.
Okay.
Okay, good. and you're going to revise the proclamation, and then you're going to. Do you want to present it to the town council? I mean, we need representation and
I
faces.
can.
here. Can you?
I can, yeah.
I want you to. Does that, what is there, excuse me, I'm pushing. What does everybody else think?
I think it would be lovely.
Yeah,
Please.
if everyone else is okay with it, then I would be fine with that.
Wonderful, great, okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is community conversations. This is another one of my little projects that I'm doing. I want to set up a series of small, free community conversations, and I think we ought to have them in the library after the book club meets, or in the senior center after lunch, because that's when people are around and they're likely to stick around. And the first one I want to do is, what is the Human Rights Commission? But the second one I want to do is a panel of what do the three major religions have in common? And I want to get 3 members of the clergy, a Christian, a Jewish person, and a Muslim person. I don't know. I know Muslim people, but I don't know any imams. I know rabbis and ministers and priests. So I'm working on that. But what I'd like to do is to say, okay, we are all people of the book. What do we have in common? What differentiates us? Does it matter? And that's the conversation I'd like to have. So I'm kind of working on that. If anybody else, Derek, if you think that's a good idea, you're welcome to participate. I know they do, and the Hillel part's easy, but the Islamic Center part is not easy. So we can talk about that a little bit more. The Islamic Center is very difficult to engage. That's all I can say. But that is my first community conversation. I really want to do that. And Jim Mercurio, who I think is a Methodist minister on one of the churches on 195, is very interested in doing it. I'm sure I can find a rabbi. Rabbi Schwartz is really good. But I need an imam or some extremely well-informed Muslim person. And my doctor happens to be one of them. So I'm going to go to him and get a connection and try to set that up before the end of spring. So that's my community conversations. If anybody else thinks that there's anything the town of Mansfield needs to talk about, and we could put together a panel that we either run in the senior center or we run in the library, tell me, because Vicki Coffin, the adult librarian, is all for it and is very supportive and is more than willing to help. So just if you think of things that we need to have conversations about, just let me know and we'll set it up. Okay, now we come to the hard part. Meeting schedule. Velda has a conflict with work, and it's hard for her to come on Wednesday night. So Monica and I have been talking about the possibility of changing the night we meet. Velda, are you there? She may be working. I don't know. Okay,
I am here. Sorry.
You are here. Okay. So Velda, what is your evening schedule? Can you manage Wednesdays, or do we, if we want to include you, do we need to change the day?
I can manage Wednesdays. The only thing is that sometimes if a student stops by to talk to me, like tonight, I just got out. I left the office like at what was it, 7:15. So I was in the car heading home tonight. But there are times where I work late, and then if a student stops by and it's an emergency or something like that, I need to talk to them. But for the most part, I think if I don't want people changing it because of me.
Well, we would change because of you, because we want you, but if you can manage it, even if you have to be late sometimes, I understand about students just showing up and having an emergency, but if you can generally manage it, it would be great, because everybody else seems to be able to get here on Wednesday, so that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that works. That's fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you considering this.
Oh yeah, you matter. Okay, now. Felicia, is this yours? This is yours.
This is mine, but it's also Felicia's.
It's also Felicia. You know about racism? I have a thing about high school females. You all look alike to me. That's all I can say. Who's going to present it? Anybody who's younger than me, it's just like I don't differentiate. I apologize. That's the way it is. Who wants to speak?
I'll start, but Felicia, you can jump in whenever. So last week for Black History Month, the Cultural Awareness Brigade at EO CAB hosted a series of events, one of them being this speaker, Dr. Kramer, who came and he spoke about reparations and about he is German, and he connected it to his experience learning about the Holocaust, learning about the German reparations to survivors. And then he went into more of historical analyses. He's actually working with the state of California on implementing some of these reparations there, and he's advising on like the costs and how to get these numbers. And obviously this is only one side, the economic side, but part of what he was talking about was going back into actual individual stories and tracing ancestry. And if you can find connections like descendants of enslaved people, personal connections within your town, you are doing a lot more to figure out both what we kind of owe descendants of enslaved peoples, but doing work from within the town level helps a lot with national reparations. And I was thinking, we have this whole witness stone project that the town does. So wouldn't it be really cool if we were able to just trace the descendants of these people, and potentially, I don't know if this was within the Human Rights Commission's charge, but potentially provide some contribution or some funding to those people.
Let me just tell you, there is a woman in northeastern Connecticut, up in Putnam area, Pomfret, named Donna Dufresne, who was doing an incredible amount of research about the enslaved people who lived here. And when they did the first Witness Stone project, we thought there was only one person. There are dozens of people in this area who were enslaved. Now, I don't know if they have any relatives who still live here, but dozens. And so I think we already have a huge resource with Donna Dufresne.
It's funny because someone in the audience, someone brought up her name.
Yeah, she's fantastic. There's a million wonderful things about Donna. And I'll give you some contact information. And if you want to invite her to one of our meetings, I'm sure she'll come and she will tell us about her project. I think they've got a display at the Wyndham Textile Museum this last month about all the people, but literally dozens of people in northeastern Connecticut who were enslaved. There's a slave burial ground up in Putnam, Pomfret, someplace, and there's all kinds of history here. So if that would be helpful, we have the resource to do it, and it would be a wonderful thing to do. I haven't heard a word about, okay, Monica, I see you. I haven't heard a word about whether they're going to do another Witness Stone project or not. And I think everything that's...
I'm interrupting, sorry. I'm
Oh.
at the dinner table with my sister, and she said that they are doing another Witness Stone project.
That's what I've heard.
She's heard that at the middle school this year for the 8th graders.
Well, that's wonderful. How can we find out more about that? Is there a contact person?
I have a question about that. Are they thinking they're going to do it this year, or that they will bring it back starting next year?
I am not sure, but I know it is happening this year or next year.
Because it was last year, it was and I'm sorry to jump in, it was like a 6-month project, right? They started
Right.
in October in social studies, and then it evolved, it was literally a full year. So I have not heard that they're doing anything in this current year, but I know that it is something that they plan to return to. But I think they're planning to do further work around Titus. Because my understanding is in the records that they did do research with, there were not a lot of individuals named in Mansfield specifically. You're right, Jane, in the region, northeastern Connecticut, there are lots of examples, but Ray works at the middle school, and but I had talked to Candace, who was the former former principal, and I can double check with Rochelle, Marcus, and Tara, who were 2 of the teachers who were engaged. I'll be seeing them tomorrow night.
Okay, that'd be great, because you're right. The scheduling of anything more this year isn't feasible.
If I may, they are working on Titus this year. It is part of the curriculum. I will get you a contact person for the.
Thank you.
I can do that
All right.
tomorrow.
Okay. Go ahead, Amy.
So I'm sorry too, is Esme was talking, it reminded me that, and you mentioned Rochelle Marcus, one of you. I was approached by Alan Marcus. They're looking to partner. He's looking to partner and work with the high school. And now I am forgetting the name of the program, but there is a, do any of you remember the name of the program at EO's people? So it's a project that he actually has worked on. I saw it featured on Sunday Morning a number of years ago, where they have holograms of Holocaust survivors, and you can ask them questions there, you can interview them. So they're working to see if they can bring that project or that program to EO next year, and do some work around that. So they are working with tying deliberation and discourse in, the human rights course and the genocide course. So it's in the works. I don't know if it's happening yet, but something that EO has been approached about hosting. So I'll
I
keep you
don't know.
posted.
I saw the whole television program about how they made that, and I watched the whole thing, and it is amazing. It's like talking to the real person, and it takes thousands of hours to put together that hologram. But it is just an amazing experience. Now, I want to get back to what Esme just said and see if there's more follow-up from Felicia. I heard you mention that this Dr. Kramer is connecting reparations with anti-Semitism, with the genocide reparations. What else do you want to say about what he's doing, or how that all goes together, or what we ought to get out of it, other than trying to do more research on enslaved people in this area?
Well, to be honest, Jane, I think he spent, so for some facts and figures, he, with conservative estimates, has estimated that the US as a whole owes descendants of enslaved people $19.1 trillion.
And that's like very conservative.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With more probably accurate measures, including not even including pre-colonial slavery. It's something like $49.2 quadrillion. And so these numbers are huge and overwhelming. But I think, and he mentioned this, lobbying for your state to adopt economic reparation proclamations. I think we could do it at a town level too.
Mhm.
And that's something that I think we should pursue as a commission.
Okay, yeah, I heard something about Los Angeles planning to give individual money to individual families, and that was the first I'd heard of that, because usually reparations are suggested as scholarship funds to send groups of people to college and things like that, but not just to hand a check to a family. But it sounds like they were thinking about doing that in Los Angeles. I don't know.
And he talked about that too, and because a lot of times reparations come in the form of like grants and like trusts and stuff like that, but he talked about how most of the time that's because governments think that these people spend their money poorly, but really he's run the data too, and they like families don't spend their money in a different way than white families do, and the way that money is handled is not like different, obviously. But so yeah, direct checks is actually the most, or his suggested method of reparation.
Yeah, well, boy, is that a long and interesting conversation. Let me ask you, do you have any, he's a UConn professor?
He is. Felicia, do you know anything more about him? You are more involved in the.
He is a UConn professor, but he does a lot of his work in California. He also he did a lot for the Georgetown reparations. I don't know if any of you know about that, but like Georgetown's history of slavery and when they sold their slaves off so that the institution wouldn't fail.
Yep.
So the past few years they've been trying to work out how to give reparations to the descendants of these people. So he was huge in that, and like going to panels and joining the like charge to how to get reparations to everyone. But that's the most I know about his UConn work. I just know a lot of what he does is in California.
Yeah, well, in the age of Zoom, that doesn't really matter. So let me ask you, would you be interested in having him come and tell us what he's doing? Is that something you want to talk about?
We could
Or do you wanna
definitely do that. I know he's a busy guy, so.
Oh, I'm sure he is, but I mean, we could ask and he could say no, but we could ask.
I just have a follow-up question about the work that he's doing. Because I know at the beginning of the conversation, we skewed to how do we find people who originated in Mansfield who experienced enslavement and then find their descendants? Or is he recommending people who currently live in these towns, like bring us your genograms and let us pay you where you live now, compared to having to kind of trace lineages and things like that?
Right. So because there is no like national standard, he kind of talked about both. We could do it either way. I just think because we have this research on Titus so new, this would be a great place to start. I jumping off point.
He was
Okay.
also talking about how a lot of families don't have the resources to just go and buy genealogy tests, and how governments should be putting in the work to try and trace lineages and like identify families and not have everyone have to do it themselves.
That seems very reasonable. Otherwise you're back in punishing the victims. Wow. Okay, well, if let me see if I can find him and have a little conversation with him, and then we'll see where it goes. Okay, thank you. Anybody else on this subject? Okay, communications, Margaret, I assume that's you.
Well, I don't think it is. I think it's if anybody writes us a letter or whatnot, but I would like to circle back to what Katie said, going back to A on new business, around the Pride flag raising. And I believe even though we have coordinated it by kind of picking a date and a time when we know the mayor might attend and that kind of thing, I believe, I think that this could be something that the Human Rights Commission embraces. And if we wanted to formulate, as a commission, here's a program that we'd like to do as part of the flag raising, I think that would be a wonderful, it shouldn't stem from, I don't think, from me organizing it beyond setting the date and the time, but what would be a meaningful Pride flag raising? So last year, we opted to do it later in the afternoon so that some of the middle school kids might, come from school, and some of the high school kids, we tried to do it in a sort of a late afternoon timeframe. We had a quite robust turnout compared to the previous year. And we held it at the town hall flagpole, but we can recommend whatever we'd like. If we feel like we want to bring in some music, or, like it really, I think that it goes with the proclamation, and the Human Rights Commission could take this on as a ceremony and just make a proposal. So, we need to really start with when, what time and what date do we want to do it? Do we want to do it on, June the 1st, or, what works there, and then build a proposal around it. So I don't know if you'd want to form a subcommittee to think about that, or
I mean, I'll
or
just
put
say
it
I'm
on.
looking at the calendar, and June 1st is a Thursday, which is a town hall standard hours. And if we have it at a time where the middle schoolers could even just take the late bus from the middle school
Right.
to arrive, we had them speak, and they were great, and they did a great job talking on the news coverage that was there. And even I know there's some elementary families that would like to be able to attend with their kids. So making sure that, it maybe isn't around like super late where you're waiting for the buses, but maybe families who are interested in attending, either have the option to pick their kids up early from school, or it's scheduled at a time where parent pickup and getting to town hall isn't troublesome.
Margaret, okay, committee, the biggest problem we have is we don't have enough people to do a lot of stuff. So Katie, where are you with this? If we wanted to have a band or have some kind of thing, is this going to interfere with you, or can
It
we
won't
do?
interfere with me. I just don't think I could be lead on both the flag raising and the Celebrate Pride event. I think that would be
When is the
more than-
Celebrate Pride event?
Celebrate Pride is Friday the 9th. So that, that will look.
Right, no, you can't,
It's gonna
okay.
be screening, and I'm working on seeing if our performer from last year is available to come out and do Drag Queen Story Hour again, which was amazing. And I love them. But I haven't heard if we have any scheduling conflicts, but those things are kind of in the works, but I don't anticipate that I could take lead on another project.
No, I agree. I didn't realize these were separate things.
I could bring it up with, I actually have a GSA meeting tomorrow at EO. I could ask those kids if they have the time and energy to be thinking about and putting energy into something like this. Given that it would be June 1st, which is on Thursday when we meet. They're a lovely group this year, a little bit quiet. So, but I'd be happy to bring it up, and that might be a neat project for them to take on if they're willing.
Yeah, because that's what we need. We need people. So see what they think. And if you're saying a ceremony, I'm talking about short, right? Like 15.
Yeah, yeah, right. I think it might have been a half an hour, maybe not even from beginning to end, but Katie handed out the flags. There was a welcome, right, from the town manager, the mayor, and Mr. Shuren, I think, read the proclamation. Might have been some other brief remarks by someone, and we thanked everybody for coming. So but we can make it more than that. I'm just saying we can give it a little bit more meat on the bones. But I'm happy to publicize it. I'm happy to, like I said, coordinate, make sure that the key players know that they need to be there.
Okay, Amy, if you would bring that up tomorrow, and then let me know what kind of reaction you get, and then we'll go from there and see. I'm happy to contribute. I can't run anything, but
Yeah,
I can
I'll
certainly, pardon me?
throw out, Amy, if your GSA wants to take lead, if they want to invite any support from the My Pride middle schoolers, once your GSA says yay or nay, I might have a few who are interested in kind of taking on a leadership role, and might be wanting to put together a thing or two if your guys are kind of organizing, because I think that could be really cool that it be completely like.
That'd be fun. Okay, I'll keep everybody posted. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Katie.
thank you. All right, I'm changing subjects again. Margaret, you and I talked about developing an icon for the Human Rights Commission that we could use on all of our stuff. Have you made any progress on that?
So I did talk to a graphic designer, but Monica and I also chatted a bit about it, and we wondered if it would be a project, not necessarily to organize a contest, because that takes a lot of work and there's a lot of moving parts. But I wondered if I know we have some some Scholastic Gold Key artists at the high school, and I thought I might reach out to Amy to maybe make an introduction to some of the art teachers. If maybe there's a student there who would be willing to take on this project of creating a graphic, incorporating those words. And it might be just entirely a type treatment. It might not be a picture or a symbol. It may just be, how do we highlight those 3 key words that we've identified? But it might be more meaningful if it was created by someone from within our community. But I wanted to kind of bounce that idea off of Jane and the group before, we could certainly get a quote from a graphic designer and just hire someone and have it done. But I wondered if it was an opportunity for some of our talented young students.
I love the idea, Margaret. What do Felicia and Derek and Esme think?
Great idea.
You'd like to see students? Okay. All right.
Okay,
So
I can definitely reach out to the teachers and we'll see what we do.
Okay, because I want to have Human Rights Commission in this, and then what I told the town council was that the motto I invented was educate, collaborate, and advocate. And if we could get that in there, that would be good. Because I have turned around in my thinking, I mean, everybody wants to advocate for the oppressed. But we can get a lot farther with education and collaboration. And then when advocacy becomes necessary, we do it. So that's why I put them in that order. But that's, I'd like to have something that when it shows up, everybody knows where it came from. So this would do that. And if you could incorporate those words or see if somebody would be willing to, that would be nice.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to walk across the street and meet with an artist or two and sort of show them, you know, what it is we've got in mind, and just to kind of inspire them and make sure they understand, you know, kind of what that project is. So.
Okay, well, that any way we do it is fine with me. So, you know, talk to the high school kids and see what they think. And if they get excited about it, that's wonderful. I would love that. Okay. Any other comments? We have no letters from the public. There was I have two more things to say about the town council. Number one, when I was finished speaking, Tony Moran said that when they created the Human Rights Commission, they had no idea the breadth and the scope of what we would try to undertake, and she was very pleased. So I was very pleased. That was a real compliment. Yeah, that's one thing, and I'm sure there was another thing, and I can't remember what it was, so I'll come back to it if it occurs to me. But anyway, she's very complimentary. So I think we're moving along in a good direction, and they liked what I had to say to them. Now I remember, there was a woman there who was profoundly offended by some comments that the mayor had made at a Board of Education meeting related to the different value systems of fundamentalist Christian and Muslim families compared to the rest of the liberal community. And this lady read an entire one-page statement about the offensive comments that the mayor made in that meeting. The town council decided that this woman had misunderstood, and the mayor also indicated that the woman had misunderstood her intent when she made the remarks she did. But I invited her to come here. I said, if you feel like your perspective is not being honored, we would love to have you come tell us. And she obviously isn't here, and we haven't received anything from her. But it was a real conflict between, it was over bathrooms in the new elementary school. Do we have unisex bathrooms, or do we have boys and girls separate? And there were two real serious differences of opinion in this town. And what the mayor was trying to say to everybody was, we have to go with what makes the most people comfortable, and therefore she recommended that we go with male and female bathrooms, and that's ultimately what they did. But I was kind of expecting that woman might show up, but she obviously hasn't, and hasn't written a letter, so I guess we're finished with that. Yeah, Janine?
Yeah, that was also brought up at the DEI meeting about the bathrooms, and they had to, because of concerns with the families, and a lot of it had to do with the Muslim, cultural, and a lot of it had to do with cultural. So they will now have separate. You'll have your unisex. You will have, they're going to have, like, you could choose whichever one that you want. It'll be a single use, it'll be a unisex, and then you will have separate. So they've had to modify and readjust because of concerns. And yeah, that was my question, was like, why was this not thought of in the beginning? But they had to go ahead, and that kind of delayed a little bit. But, you know, we are moving in, and I believe we're doing tours and field trips with students this month, so they can go in and see what it looks like, and they can see what the bathrooms are going to look like. But that was like one of the biggest things, was the bathroom issue.
It was not just the Muslim families, it was also the evangelical Christian families.
Yes.
So it was
sorry to interrupt, Jane, just to clarify, Janine, then, because this was something we were asking about at the high school level. So they'll have an all gender, the boys' bathroom and the girls' bathroom.
Yes.
If I'm looking at my notes, it's going to have, you have your separate use, you'll have your unisex, and there will be at least one or whatever, in certain areas, single use, because there are individuals that just do not feel comfortable and they want that separate. So they're trying to honor everything.
Well, that's
Okay.
quite a thing. I mean, so I'm assuming that's transgender people and people with disabilities, because those bathrooms are usually for people with disabilities. But the transgender thing is a big deal too. So that's good.
So, yeah, I mean, in the bathrooms that they've put into each corridor, there are very large stalls so that people with who are, mobility disadvantaged can use those right within the hallways. But there are a number of other, what we might call a teacher's bathroom, right? A single use that will be open to students as well who do not want to go into a girl's bathroom or a boy's identified bathroom. So lots of options. It's been resolved. They talked about this a lot at the school building committee back when these kinds of decisions were being made. The public, didn't tune into that, I guess. And so they made these decisions, and then families started to understand, oh, well, you mean this is going to be the situation. But they've listened and they've resolved it, and it's going to open with all of those options. So
I think that's
they did a good job responding to the concerns, I believe.
Yeah, because I mean, that's extremely difficult, and I'm really glad to hear that they did what they did. That's wonderful. Okay, we are at the end of the agenda, but we have opportunity for public comment, and we have two people here who are public, Ray and Renee. So if you have anything else you'd like to share with us, we would be happy to hear it.
No, I think I'm good. There was just so much that was covered today that I'm just really absorbing it all. I don't think I could comment on just one thing. I really just want to think about everything. So, but thank you for having me tonight. It was very informative.
Are you still interested in joining us? That's what.
Oh, I absolutely am.
Okay, great. And Ray, how about you? Comments, thoughts?
I'm amazed at how much we're doing within the town in this area. It's kind of a silent thing that I don't think the general public is aware of what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's one of the emphases this year is to make sure we let them know. And are you interested in joining us?
I will continue to pursue it, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. Love to have you. All right. Any other comments for the good of the order? Yeah, Esme.
This is just for next meeting. I looked at the schedule. It's scheduled for April 6th. Felicia and I will both be in Costa Rica on a Costa Rican exchange trip. So.
Oh dear. What are you going to be doing? Are you digging ditches or building houses or what?
No, it's not a mission trip.
Yes, promise.
What is it?
We're just exchanging cultures. So we hosted Costa Ricans over winter break. They came and lived with us, and now we're going to live with them just so we can experience Latin America and get better at Spanish.
Wonderful. Well, have a wonderful time, and you can come back to the next meeting and tell us what you found out. Okay, any other comments? Okay, well, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
I'll move.
Esme moves to adjourn the meeting. Second.
Second.
Amy moves to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, this meeting is officially adjourned. This was great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.